Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. Today I'm back with another homeschooling video, and what I'm going to share with you today is the one thing that you really need to learn to let go of. Okay, first of all, you might notice that I am recording in a different area of my house because a neighbor was getting rid of a desk today for free. So of course we grabbed it, brought it in. This is the first desk that I have ever actually had of my own. My husband has a desk and some of my kids have had desks, but I have never actually had a desk for myself. So this is really exciting. But you might notice that the lighting is a little bit different here. It's just a whole different experimentation that I'm going to have to deal with for the time being. But anyway, and also I apologize that I'm having to suck on a cough drop while I am doing this video, but this is now my third take of starting, and I kept hacking away in the other videos or in the other tries. So I'm going to start all over again and try once more. So anyway, what is the one thing that you really seem to have a hard time letting go of in your homeschool? Now, if I would ask 5 different people that question, I would probably get 5 different answers. But what I have noticed when I have talked to people about this, or in the things that I have experienced myself, is that no matter how many different answers you get, very often they are linked to one root problem: the yearning for perfection. Let me tell you something. There is no such thing as a perfect homeschool. There is no such thing as a perfect homeschooling parent. There is no such thing as a perfect homeschooling child. People are not perfect in general. Yet a lot of times we parents, that is what we envision in our mind. We think of those Leave It to Beaver style scenes. I'm probably dating myself because a lot of you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. But we picture all of these things in our head of how we think the perfect homeschool should look. And what it does, instead of actually helping you to focus more on your time with your kids, is that it causes a lot of undue stress to not only you, but also to your children as well. So let's talk about some of these things. Let's get real. First of all, let's talk about your idea of a perfectly clean house. Sure, if you've got one child or possibly 2, it might be a little bit easier for you to get a perfectly clean house than for those of us who have a larger family. But even if you do have only one child, depending on how active they are and the fact that you are homeschooling, your kids are home all the time with you. You know, they're not gone 6 hours a day for you to be picking up everything while they're not here. What typically happens if your family is anything like mine, as you are straightening up one room, you move into the next room and the kids are right behind you, messing it right back up over again. It can be really, really easy to get stressed out about this and to start feeling like you must be failing in some area because your house does not look picture perfect, Better Homes and Gardens style. Here's the thing though. When your kids are making those messes, they're learning. In everything that they do, they are learning. So even though you might have little messes throughout the house, these are all experiences that your kids are gaining. They are learning to explore things. They are finding out about the world. They're finding out about themselves. And you know what? Childhood is fleeting. The amount of time that you are going to have your kids home with you is minuscule compared to the time that they will be adults and not even with you any longer. Cherish this time with your kids. Now, does this mean that I say, just let everything go? Of course not. Chores are also a great way to teach your kids, to teach them about the world. But you need to just let go of the striving for perfection in your home, because you know what? The experiences that you have with your kids are far more important than having a spotless house. So the next one that I want to talk to you about are the idea of the perfect homeschool plan. How many times have you looked at other homeschooling families and you have seen that they are learning things that you never even thought of? You know, they might be learning Latin. They might be doing violin. They might be learning Greek on top of the Latin. They might be learning American Sign Language. The list can go on and on and on. And so when you're comparing it to what you yourself are doing with your kids, you might start to think that maybe you've got some areas that you need to fill. But the thing is that there is no perfect homeschool plan. On paper, yes, you can definitely design the perfect homeschool plan on paper, and you can look at it and you can gush over it and you can imagine how great it's going to be, but it's likely not going to turn out how you think it is. So, as with everything, remember, you are not perfect, your kids are not perfect, and no homeschool plan is going to be perfect. Is it possible to find one that works for you and your kids? Absolutely. And that's all about experimenting. It's about figuring out what makes your kids tick and what you as the homeschooling parent can handle implementing. There's no such thing as a perfect homeschool plan. Let it go. So the third thing that I want to talk about is perfectly completed work. I know sometimes, even though I love being on Instagram, it can be the bane of my existence at times as well, because most people tend to put their best moments on Instagram. And so a lot of times those best moments include the absolutely perfect things that their kids have completed in their homeschool, their perfect cursive handwriting, or a perfectly painted art project that they did, or a 10-page long report that their 8-year-old did. And it can be far too easy to start comparing your kids to what you're seeing on Instagram. But what I want to tell you is that what you are seeing on Instagram are the highlights of those homeschools. They are the best moments, and that does not in any way mean that every single part of that person's homeschool looks like that. No child is going to get 100% on every test. No child is always going to spell every single word right. No child is always going to get every math problem correct. No child is ever going to remember every period, comma, semicolon, or apostrophe. Give your kids grace. Give yourself grace, because a lot of times when we see that our kids are making mistakes, we bring these things back onto us as parents, and we think that we mustn't be doing things well enough. But that is not the case. We have to go back to just realizing that our kids are perfect in their imperfection. So the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about are just striving for those perfectly behaved kids. And I talked about this in one of my other videos the other day. The first impression that I got of how homeschooled kids behave were what I saw on TV, what I saw with the Duggars, how all of their kids were very helpful and they didn't have to be told anything, and they were quiet, and they had beautiful countenances and were always smiling. But I've realized that that's not reality. There are no perfectly behaved kids. Kids are, we have to remember that we are all sinners, saved by grace, hopefully. And not hopefully that I don't believe that, but I'm hoping that you have accepted the gift of grace for yourself. But anyway, we are all going to make mistakes. And so we, again, have to stop looking at ourselves as bad parents if our kids are not doing exactly what it is that we want them to all the time. Because remember, our goal should be to be raising individuals, not automatons. And so the last thing that I just wanted to touch on today when it comes to perfection is you just need to let go of the idea of you being a perfect parent. Because let's face it, all of the things that I've talked about are things that a perfect parent would do. A perfect mother would have a perfectly clean house all the time. It would always be quiet. Music would always be playing. Candles would always be burning. There would always be cookies in the oven. Her hair would be perfectly coiffed, and all of the children would be perfectly dressed, hair brushed, clean faces all the time. I've never met a family like that. And a perfect parent would also likely have the perfect homeschool plan, and not only ones that they could just look at, but ones that they could implement. But again, I'm going to tell you that there are no perfect homeschool parents. Perfect homeschool parents, in theory, their kids would have perfectly completed work because they have taught their children perfectly. So why would their children make mistakes? But there are no perfect homeschool parents. Perfect parents would have perfectly behaved kids. I don't think that any of us have ever actually in real life met any children who were always perfectly behaved. So I want you to just remember this. Give yourself grace. Give your kids grace. Embrace your homeschool for what it is, and embrace all of the imperfections that come with it, because that is what gives your family your uniqueness. Anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one over on Instagram because YouTube disabled my comments. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. Today, I want to give a shout out to one of my newest patrons, Megan. Megan, thank you so much for sponsoring me. I hope that you find your sponsorship to be fruitful, and I just want to thank you so much for your encouragement, and I hope you all have a great day.